Life is full of peaks and valleys. One day you're a big shot, the next you're down in the dumps. But should you make just the right deals, you'll return better and brighter than ever. Spamton G. Spamton, the #1 rated hyperlink blocked. Okay, that was weird. Alastor, the radio demon. I am No Name, and I'm here to analyze their powers, techniques, and experience to figure out who wins. The things that people do online are terrifying. They're basically killing themselves for 5 seconds of fame. And within a world where the photon readings were negative, known as the cyber world, everyone knew of someone just like that. Everyone meet the Addisons, literal walking, talking advertisements. You see, the cyber world is in a plane of existence known as a dark world. You know when things are dark and your mind plays these tricks on you so your coat rack looks like a person? Well, dark worlds take that a step further, fueled by a dark fountain, and things get so dark that those things that your mind tricks you into seeing become real. The Addisons were literally advertisements, but one stood out among the rest. Spamton G. Spamton. Being the literal embodiment of spam ads, Spamton had dreams much bigger than his humble ad life. He had dreams of becoming a big shot. And one day, he heard a call from a phone from a mystery man that told him everything he needed to become a big shot. And it worked. Spamton gained so much notoriety that he appeared on Mr. Antenna's TV time, and even had his own place in Q5U4EX7YY2E9N's mansion. I should have just called her Queen. What was I thinking trying to be original and quirky? However, Spamton's life of fame quickly came to an end. He was reliant on the mystery man on the phone, so when the man told Spamton something extremely cryptic, he went insane. He lost everything, even the fancy color text that Tenna had. Now he's just some dumpster diver harassing anyone that came across his path. In this case, it was a Lightner, also known as a person from the real world, here to seal the dark fountain with their soul. And Spamton saw an opportunity in this young, very explicitly non-binary child. Spamton wished to make a deal with Chris in the middle of a battle, where Spamton showcased that this sweepstaker can throw hands. Alright, let's look at this ability list. Okay, we got duplication via little version of himself coming out of his mouth. He can send text waves at you. He can also use your own money to attack you with. What the fuck do I even count this as? Chromer manipulation? Sure, oh, we can also change the size like Ant-Man. Oh, also if you press SF1, a mini version of Spamton heals his opponent. That is probably the most useless ability that we covered on the show. Okay, to be clear, I'm not making fun of all Spamton's abilities. They do target the soul directly after all. It's just that, what do I even say about this guy's fighting style? I suppose he fights with the form of Danmaku. I guess, you know, how Toho does it, so that's cool. Back on track, Spamton may be able to fight, but he's a salesman through and through at heart. After making a little dealio with Chris, the Lightner and their buddies would stop by Spamton's shop, and he had all sorts of items, and they're constantly fluctuating in price just by Spamton's presence. Maybe it's for the best because you buy them for cheap because he's literally selling you poisons. At least his dealmaker allows him to survive harsh cold climates, but he wished that in the snow grave. But we're not talking about that right now. Spamton knows a lot more than his silly demeanor may leave you believing. You see, Chris had their autonomy stolen from them by a little heart-shaped object. Chris had their entire body and autonomy taken away from them, much like Spamton. Spamton realized this, straight up being aware of the player's control, allowing Spamton to basically break the fourth wall and interact with our world. In the Spamton Sweepstakes, where he plastered his face on merch, got cooked alive, made some Valentine's Day cards, and for the Undertale 10th anniversary stream, he showed up in Undertale while Toby Fox was playing Undertale, and completely consumed a comically large fry. By doing some pixel measurements by looking at the image relative to the size of what an actual fry looks like in Undertale, we can deduce that Spamton ate a fry with over 44,000 times the volume of regular fry. I guess he had the munchies! Spamton took advantage of our curiosity and tricked us into uploading himself into a new, fancy body. Spamton became ever closer to achieving freedom, achieving heaven. Yet he was still strung up. He just needed Chris's little heart-shaped object. This is Spamton Neo. Famous for his high defense, it actually has cool powers. Phones that shoot sound waves, cars that have large damaging mail on it, even attacking with his own face, and with a cannon perfect for firing off big shots, so many more projectiles as well as Pippus, Spamton was ascending into the big shot he was always destined to be. In another timeline where Chris made some frozen chicken, Spamton Neo is capable of completely taking over Queen's mansion. Crazy impressive since Queen's giant mech could fight against the Fun Gang's mech that launched a baseball with the same power as a nuclear bomb. She took a face full of 19,000 tons of TNT tea and was mostly fine. On top of that, Spamton's attacks directly target the soul. He can take attacks from Susie, who can do the same. Speaking of Susie, she blocks sound waves from reaching someone's ears, whereas the entire Fun Gang can dodge light attacks from wire-wires. The speed needed to do so is just a bit over the speed of light. On top of all of this, he could become the biggest big shot ever, somewhat capable of manipulating time, and of course, making even bigger shots. It's a surprise that Spamton failed, but the soul was just too filled with determination, and whether cut free, frozen solid, or just given a solid ass beating, both strings were finished ringing. In the proper timeline, Spamton realized he could not ever achieve freedom. He grew insane from attempting to achieve it, and now wanted to see Chris's life play out. Perhaps they could even drink from that sweet, sweet freedom juice that Spamton was always yammering on about. Spamton spent his whole life obeying orders, the complete opposite of freedom. A puppet on a string, in a world that's darker yet darker. But maybe as a permanent piece of Chris now. They won't be forgotten, and be with them even in the dark. Lust, pride, greed, sloth, gluttony, envy, and wrath. When Lucifer gave Eve the fruit of knowledge, while it may have granted humanity free will for endless creativity, it was also the ground zero for sin to be created. And one of the greatest sinners of all was banished to the first circle of hell, along with the rest of the trash, and would become an overlord, broadcasting the screams of his victims while cannibalizing them alive. This is the radio demon Alastor. This dapper fellow ruled over hell for years, yet his origins are largely a mystery. What we do know is that in life, Alastor was a successful radio host in the 1920s and 30s. As a black man in those times, he naturally faced plenty of discrimination, and his rage was ever festering, causing him to kill people for the smallest of inconveniences and hide their bodies in the forest. Naturally, Al over here knew he would end up a tortured soul in hell, so through a ritual, he summoned the cannibal overlord Rosie and struck up a deal. He'd become the strongest sinner in all of hell, and he loved it. But in exchange, Rosie kept Alastor on a tight leash. This guy was basically Rosie's pet, something she would never let him forget. While Alastor enjoyed a few decades of being on top, Rosie forced him to go off the air, though while he was in the spotlight, he certainly proved his might. Alastor's signature ability is moving around as a shadow. This allows for getaways, dodging attacks, etc, etc. He can also summon shadow demons to rip apart anyone he likes. Alastor can create portals, fire, lightning to make the Happy Hotel the Hazbin Hotel, and manipulate dark tendrils from just about anywhere. Alastor can even use them as a slingshot to launch himself at high velocity. Imagine getting hit by the staff of his at those speeds. Or when he grows in size to become a true demon. That form's scary. Almost as scary as his deals. Catch yourself in a deal with the radio demon and he may end up owning your very soul. He ended up doing this to poor Husk, a magician gambler, and Nifty, a small German Wait, what do you mean she's 22? Alastor's deals are forced contracts, the specifics of which can be altered, but he ended up making a relatively simple one with the Princess of Hell, Charlie Morningstar. Charlie aimed to create a hotel for sinners to stay at to hopefully work towards redemption. While Alastor thought the idea was laughable, Rosie, presumably, forced him to help out and he was down to see people fail. Though the guy wasn't much help beyond being a bodyguard, he did record an advertisement, to his own dismay though. Alastor hates TV so much that he can't even be recorded via cameras. All because of one TV-headed fool, Vox. While originally Alastor's friend, when Vox asked to team up with Alastor, he rejected him in the most humiliating way possible, planting a seed of jealousy that Alastor would constantly berate Vox for, so much that Vox caused the entire pentagram to black out once. However, things wouldn't always go Alastor's way. You see, sinners were constantly faced with exterminations by angels every year for 7 years. While normally sinners and angels that die simply just respawn, angels had holy weapons that damage your soul and completely destroy you. When the Hazbin crew learned of this, they got their hands on some, and were ready to fight off the angel exterminators. Alastor created a giant shield covered in his tendrils holding these weapons, and he was the first one to face off against the first man in General of Heaven's army. Adam. Not my Adam, though. Alastor tried to end Adam's fucking life, but he was a bit in over his head. Yes, Rosie made him the strongest in hell, but he wasn't the absolute strongest of all time. So he was basically put on a leash after getting scammed. But then he conducted the most ingenious idea. He stroked Vox's ego, letting him capture and cuck him, all with one simple stipulation to the deal. He was not to lay a hand on Charlie Morningstar. It seems so minor to Vox, and on a grand stage ready to nuke all of heaven, Alastor forced Charlie to declare Vox the strongest in all of hell. This gave Vox a massive power boost and an ego boost, so he accidentally touched Charlie. This not only freed Alastor from his deal with Rosie, but with Vox at the same time. Now he'd do battle, and maybe, just maybe, Vox would actually put up a fight. Alastor was more than capable of dodging almost all of Vox's attacks, and he can run through electrical wires at about 80% the speed of light. Vox had also captured Lucifer to create the Might of Lilith, and after a little beheading from his moth boyfriend, the super weapon was going to explode. It took effort from basically all of the overlords, but with their help, Alastor could contain the might of Lilith's, well, might. And that thing blew a hole straight through heaven, a feat worth a septillion ton of TNT. Obviously, Alastor himself could not contain the blast, and he likely died to a single shot trying, but he was able to briefly match Lucifer's power by using his Broadway Force. What's Broadway Force, I hear you asking? Well, it's basically the act of a character breaking into song and dance with no one around them judging it and just going along for the ride. Spoilers, I can't fit into the fight, sorry about that. Back on track, it turns out this whole time redemption was not only possible, but there was living proof in it in Serpentius. Alastor thought redemption to be silly. Considering the residents of Hell, who would think it would be possible? But Charlie saw the good in others Alastor could not and did not want to see. She believed that anyone could be redeemed, no matter the sin. Perhaps even Alastor can be redeemed. Maybe behind his cannibalism, murder spree, wrath, and general bad attitude, there is a semblance of humanity left. Perhaps through Charlie, this ace in the hole, find out that even he can be redeemed. Nah. Whatever Alastor's got planned, it sure as hell ain't gonna be good for those around them. As if this maniacal supervillain could ever be redeemed, even if it's possible. Regardless of the screams, he's being a friend or foe, or to the radio demon, the result of this experiment will be all the same. Pure entertainment.
Step right up, get your parlays in, because it is time to figure out who would win.
Hey, Everett! It's me!
Oh? Now who do I owe the pleasure to?
Everybody's favorite!
1997 #1 rated salesman!
Spamton J.
Spamton!
Oh, a TV salesman, I see.
TV is pure! Computers are!
The future of humanity!
Really now? Well, it's no radio, but I think I can see eye to eye with you.
Radio is for...
No fights!
Anything else you have to say?
I aim to be a...
Big shot!
And you have exactly what I need. Me. So I'm going to...
Wow,
Your stupid game! 4!
Hyperlink. What?
Press F1 for hell!
I think I'd rather broadcast your screams than eat you in front of your... You seriously believe you can overwhelm me? You're nothing but a sad little man who's hiding behind others.
You're one hell of a...
projector only $29.99!
Where did he go? Oh my.
That's what I call a real...
Baseball!
I'm going to relish your screams for eternity.
Merquade!
Lullaby!
Out of the way! You're so... unread! It's making my...
Not so fast, salesman.
Monk! I'm going to become... Jewelry! Or some other old...
I'm sure you'd love to become God, so how's about a little deal?
What kind of...
Deal!
In exchange for a minor little piece of your soul, I'll lower the barrier. Think about it. Becoming God at the cost of your soul. It's an opportunity too good to pass up. Oh, alright then. Wait, what?
Come to you! You are... stupid! Darkness of the soul, Jack!
Fuck.
Neo was known for high defense!
Now don't you forget, you silly puppet. Don't get cocky with your fence.
Sneeze! Cool Skeleton 95!
Apparently you shall cover!
Big shot!
Well, like you're so edgy!
Police officer!
Stealing my
Fucking
trash! Totally move!
puppet!
And even me! Ayano!
Big shot! Don't forget!
You dying! But also, I was
Skibbity toilet! Plugs!
January 2026!
Ahem. You're really a big shot, aren't you? So powerful and yet still strung up. Projecting much? Addison? The poor little Addison who wanted to be a big shot. Well, here you are, and yet you still can't kill me no matter how hard you try. But tell you what, I'll cut you another deal. You do me one tiny favor, and then I'll grant you all my power, and you'll be able to cut those little strings of yours.
I smell
Horrendously burnt!
desperation in the air! It smells like... But I don't see why not. Do it!
Tumbler Bambi!
Make me real!
Big shot!
Excellent.
Are you watching heaven?
Fucking!
Masquerade!
But you have to uphold your end of the deal. And it's to stay still while I rip off your head.
Oh, you little shit!
Holy shit, I didn't actually expect that. Honestly, I thought with Spamton's crazier feats, he'd have the edge. But when laid out, it's pretty clear that Alastor held a massive edge over the Salesman. Let's start with their tricks. Despite how he may appear, Spamton is way more of a manipulator than you think. And with his much more varied abilities and generally being a lot more unpredictable than Alastor, Alastor could get very overwhelmed by this. Fortunately for Alastor, Spamton had a bad habit of screwing himself over. After the first couple waves of bullet hells, Alastor would adapt and learn Spamton's tricks and possibly set up a deal. While characters in the arena are bloodlusted to prevent any pacifists from not using their fists, this doesn't mean they will act out of character, or if their goal is to still ultimately to kill the guy in front of them. Alastor is more than smart enough to figure out a way and to go under Spamton's skin and offer him a deal he can't refuse. And Spamton, with all due respect, is fucking stupid enough to accept. Whether it be Cromer, Power, Pipis, Alastor has all sorts of toys to dangle over Spamton's head. However, a deal would not be Alastor's first thought or option, and he'd need to find or make some sort of opening against this unpredictable ball of chaos in order to get that opportunity. Ultimately, both had advantages. Alastor's tricks and tactics were better in the long run, but Spamton's initial unpredictability would leave Alastor guessing for a while, especially when we look at abilities. Spamton and Alastor shared a few abilities. Both could mess with attack, both could summon minions, both could mess with souls, and they could grow inside. However, much like our last battle of deal makers, their soul manipulation wasn't relevant here. Spamton could do it, allowing him to bypass Alastor's Sinner respawn, and Spamton could resist attacks from Susie that also target the soul, so Alastor's holy weapons were kinda dead weight. Or at least they would be. While Spamton's abilities are far more versatile, Alastor was far better at using his powers. His minions were seemingly a lot more useful than Spamton's clones. Of note, Spamton had better size control, but with Alastor's steals, it's hard to say who really had the edge here. These two are famous for being manipulators, but ultimately their bags of tricks would run out and it would all come down to stats. Speed was actually in Spamton's favor, a little over the speed of light, thanks to Spamton catching Chris off guard versus only 80% of the speed of light from Alastor keeping up with Vox. Not a particularly massive gap. Hell, electrical wires have electricity running around 90% of the speed of light, so the gap could be even smaller. That leaves power. If one can take this by a high enough metric, and that would make all the other points moot, since Alastor would be strong enough to eventually one-shot Spamton, or Spamton could easily overwhelm Alastor with his Danmaku to blow Alastor away. The best feat of scaling for Spamton is... not Giga Queen, surprisingly. Yeah, 19,000 tons of TNT is nothing to scoff at, but even Vox blacking out all of the pentagram got way higher. 63 million tons of TNT, in fact. But we all know that's not Alastor's best, so what's Spamton's best? You have to be shitting me, okay. So, in Undertale, monster food is different from human food. Instead of being digested, since monsters are made of magic, it's converted into raw energy. Normally, the amount of energy that would be produced from the average fry would be nothing, but considering the width, height, and length of the fry, you're not dealing with an average fry anymore. We can deduce that the fry he ate was over 44,000 times the volume of the average fry. Now, we can use Einstein's famous E = mc² equation to figure out how much energy Spamton just took here. You could argue this would be an unknown type of energy monsters are immune to, but Spamton is a Darkner, a different species from both the monsters who eat it regularly and the humans who can recover their soul with it. There's nowhere for that energy to go besides Spamton's own body just taking it. So taking into account the fry as assumed mass and plugging into a calculator, we can deduce that Spamton took the equivalent of 3 billion tons of TNT when he ate that fry. Incredibly stupid, incredibly impressive, but he ultimately fell short. Alastor could contain a blast from the might of Lilith, which blew a hole through heaven worth 1.7 septillion tons of TNT. But Alastor had help, and the power split between 14 people, and it's outright said that everyone would have died from that power. That being said, this was the full power going haywire and not the more controlled blast Vox was using. So by dividing that septillion tons of TNT 4 ways, we can reach a 124 sextillion tons of TNT. Ironic considering the fact that Alastor's asexual, but it made Alastor 32 trillion times more powerful than Spamton. Funny, fry, calc, or not, giving Alastor the last advantage he needed. Spamton's attacks may target the soul like holy weapons in the Helliverse, but there's nothing suggesting it's a kryptonite to them. It just does as much damage as regular weapons. They ultimately just allow sinners to perma-die, rather than just respawn. Spamton was fast, versatile, and endlessly unpredictable, but Alastor's wealth of experience, overlord power, and unpassable deals gave him the win. Both may have been blocked from heaven, but against Spamton, the radio demon was a hell of a lot brighter. The winner is Alastor.